Hi, welcome to the D365 Shot First podcast with Charlie.
I was just doing some hand symbols.
What are you for?
What do you call it? Not sign language. I was trying to sign.
Okay, and I'm Ben. So how you been, Charlie, since the last one?
Awfully busy.
Yeah?
Awfully busy.
And had any pain points?
I have. So, on the last podcast, if you've watched, if not, go back, give a little watch, and then after you've watched, come straight back and watch this. Because you wouldn't want to miss anything, obviously, because me and Ben are just fabulous.
Yeah.
And when I say me and Ben, I just mean Ben.
Yeah.
But essentially, on the last podcast, we said there were some pain points that we wanted to talk about that we think users often have.
Yeah, we did ask for some comments as well, didn't we? So
yeah, and we wanted to address some that we know and we think might crop up.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get to those first.
Yeah.
Would you like to kick it off?
Yeah, so this morning when I got out of bed, just to be serious then. So one that came up was data amalgam. I'm going to call it data amalgamation. So a lot of people have to look in various places for their data. So with us being a Dynamics house, Biz Apps house, classically with me looking at Dynamics, they'll have Dataverse. They've got one place, but not everyone has integrated all their stuff. I'm saying not everyone. A lot of people haven't integrated all their data yet. So they might have things in SharePoint. They might have spreadsheets. And what you can do in-house with Copilot Studio is you can reference all those data sources, and provided that the person looking at the data has got permissions for all those sources, so it might be a shared spreadsheet, it might be a SharePoint folder, it might be a Dataverse table, you can create a bot which you can deploy to Teams for them or to Microsoft 365, so it's on the side of Dynamics. And you can say, spin me up a report of all the income that we've received from all these various sources in the last month. And instead of you having to look at all the places and spot duplicates as well, because you might have to reference GUIDs across spreadsheets, our unique identifiers, or first name and last name and amount, just to make sure it's not the same thing. Copilot's going to do that for you. So that was something we thought was quite interesting, and that we could analyze the data like that.
Again, just to be clear, it's a great tool as long as it's heavily permissionized.
Yeah.
As in, you don't want all users having access to everything, because obviously then they can just query the AI and that, leaves your data at the helm of anyone.
The great thing about Copilot Studio when you use it in-house is that you can use the M365 authentication. So it authenticates at Enter ID level, and therefore anyone with that profile only has permissions on the same data as they would in Dataverse, or the same SharePoint folder, or the same folder where OneDrive folder, or whatever you're using to store your spreadsheet.
Exactly, which is obviously useful. Do permissions once and do them right.
Yeah.
And then you're covered, which is obviously important. And leaning on from Ben's point and relating it to BC, which is my side of the pond, essentially AI for us in BC is brilliant for analysis. You can do some development on AI for BC. And if you're analysing your cash flow forecast, or you're trying to generate cash flow forecasts, for example, you can reconcile using AI. I wouldn't advertise you do, because AI isn't exact and you need your reconciliations to be exact. Mm-hmm. We've seen some instances where it's not brilliant and then you had to go and fix it, which is obviously a cost and there's extra time and it was wrong. So it's not always great in BC because you have got numbers that need to be exact. However, like I said, when you're using analyses or cash flow forecasts, for example, or any kind of forecast where you're just analysing previous data and trying to create a forecasted trend, essentially, it's brilliant. Again, you can use AI to try and flag things. So
it's good for trend analysis, but is it good for fixing bad data, do you think?
Not current. Again, it could be developed to be out the box, no. But again, you can develop it, right? You can develop on top of it. Mm-hmm. So it's great. As you were saying, you could reference data you have in a CRM, for example, where you might have a customer in CRM, if you've recently integrated, that seasonally operates or seasonally puts big orders in. So again, if you've got data amalgamation, you could use the data from CE, knowing that all this customer, so you say you've only just got an ERP system, right? And Santa is your biggest customer,
right?
Before Christmas, Santa's going to do a big order. Because you've only just got an ERP system, your ERP system isn't going to be able to know that yet.
Yeah.
But if you had data amalgamation and AI to seal that data, what you could potentially do there is forecast the trend using the data there, because it's obviously open to the AI's got all of that data and it's like encompassing it effectively. Then you can use that to forecast sales based on your data from CE.
Okay, yeah, that could be good for like a fruit picking business or something like that.
Well, this is it, but obviously that would would cost a lot, because you need a good CE system, a well-built CE system, and you'd need AI developed on top of that.
That's true.
Isn't going to be cheap. But again, these are all things that are possible theoretically.
Because I hate to break it to you on a podcast in public, but Santa doesn't exist.
I'm going to choose to not believe you.
Okay.
Choose to ignore that previous comment.
Right. Okay.
Because Santa comes every year.
So he's good for a seasonal podcast. It's good for seasonal forecasting. It's good for trend analysis. It's good for kind of data analysis, essentially. The stuff that really you think, oh, this is going to be easy, but it's going to be time consuming, and you're there an hour later. You're pleased with the spreadsheet you've made, but you could have whipped it up using AI in no time at all.
Well, that's it, because essentially it's just a data reference, right? Which is what AI is perfect for. You're not trying to get it to give you an exact answer, you're just trying to get it to predict, which is all it is, right? I don't know if anyone knows that, but AI is essentially just a predictive model. It uses the words in the sentence to predict what comes next.
Yeah.
So, it's essentially all it is. So, again, predictive models, perfect. It's the perfect scenario, really. You mentioned earlier today, for FAQs.
Yeah, so it's really good for FAQs. So for external, you could create a bot in a matter of minutes, because you can just get an FAQ document or several, attach them to your Copilot Studio, publish that, you grab the code out of it, and you get someone to whack that in your website for you, and you've got an embedded bot in minutes. Or internal knowledge sharing as well. You could get the AI to write you a document, which you can then host internally, maybe via a Teams channel or something like that. People can just type in natural language. You can create some prompts, so maybe there'll be a common thing people might want to report from the last month, like I mentioned with the data amalgamation. You could write the prompt that says, give me all the income data from the last month from all the sources available in this channel. And because that's a common prompt, you're going to get a similar answer. Obviously with AI, it will phrase things slightly differently every time. You're going to get a similar answer every time. So yeah, very good for FAQs as well.
One of the things, we're big here at Formus Pro, a lot of our business is not-for-profit and the not-for-profit sector.
Yeah.
And we were talking previously to this, just trying to get some ideas for the podcast, what we wanted to talk about. And we both stumbled upon NFPs being great for AI.
Yeah.
Whereas, for BC, you could, if you've got a CRM system, we use a lot of OCR software to scan in purchase orders and invoices. So essentially what you could do, OCR isn't AI, but you can use AI to, potentially scan your inbox to look for an invoice that you potentially are expecting from the CRM system. And NFPs could use this again for fundraising, where, as you said, where someone might, I forgot the scenarios.
I was saying, I don't know how often this happens, but maybe you'll have a donation that's being paid by check, but actually you're expecting that check to be received in your office, and the way you record that is in SharePoint. You could scan that daily or whenever you want, a click of a button, and AI will go and find that check. Provide, again, the data is the key here. It needs to be in the right folder or have the right name on it. If it's being mislabeled with the wrong structure, AI again could actually go through every day and tell you which checks haven't been labeled with the correct structure. They could have been written under the wrong name. Not much we can do about that. But point being, we could go and find that and reconcile those things. And you mentioned reconciliation in BC as well, similar kind of thing. What's OCR?
It's basically recognition software.
Okay.
So basically just read, or it'll just scrape an invoice, essentially. Say you get an email, so say you bought something off of Gymshark, for an example, or let's make it a bit more realistic. You bought something from Formus Pro.
Right.
Let's pretend you bought something on Formus Pro.
Yeah.
They send you an invoice for £1,000.
Okay.
Right. On their invoice, it's going to say Formus Pro at the top. It's going to have the date. It's going to have the amount, the VAT. The description of the item you've bought. The OCR software, you basically can train it. You draw boxes with the word train. It's not really train. You draw boxes around the data you expect to have from that invoice. So you always ask for a sample invoice, and then you basically can just train it to look at that specific location for X data.
Yeah.
So you could say, in this field we always expect there to be a date. In this area we expect there to be a date. In this area we always expect there to be a company name, item description, for example, an amount of VAT. And then that will just bring it all through from your email straight into BC.
Okay.
So it reduces, again, manual entry, where someone before may go, oh, we've got an invoice overdue, or we've got an invoice that we owe. You know, instead of someone having to monitor that and constantly be bringing things in and wasting someone's potentially whole day, certain days, it'll just bring that all in for you and bring it straight into BC.
Okay,
And
that's
then
cool.
obviously you can pay it out of BC or dispute it depending on if you've received what supposedly you've had. So yeah, it's a very cool piece of software. Again, takes a bit of setting up, but reduces manual entry. I don't know if you'd class that as AI. I assume not.
No, well, but maybe it's scanning stuff. The way it scans things is a kind of artificial intelligence, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Again, but AI could do that.
yeah,
You know, if you somehow data cited your email inbox, you could get AI to scan your inbox to look for purchase orders, invoices, whatever it may be.
yeah. So we talked a lot about AI, and do you see it being an area that, you know, we've touched with well in former podcasts about the future of consultants. So with AI, it does seem like something people are going to be focusing on. So do you think you're going to focus on that, and maybe that'll be your main area of expertise, and then another part of consultancy, you'll know a little bit about the other areas?
No.
Or no, you don't. No.
AI is not something currently that I'm going to focus on. I don't think I've not seen enough use cases for it for end users. I've seen, obviously we use it all the time. I'm still going to use it all the time to speed my day up and make things more efficient and try and get more done per day. When it comes to end users, automation, I just think a lot of businesses are so far behind. AI is not where they should be focusing their resources. You know, don't get me wrong, AI would speed a lot of their day up, but nothing that we're going to develop for them will. Potentially it can, right? If they've got the funds to develop on top, to give them use cases, then 100%. I'm not a developer. I'm a consultant.
Okay.
So, you know, for me, it's focusing on things like Power Automate and just automating business processes that don't need to be done by a human, so I can free you up and save your time.
Where do you think you're do you go through a future of consultants? Do you think that people will carry on being a consultant who knows about everything, or do you think people will start focusing on one thing?
I think you need, I'm going to mention a few things here. So I think it depends what type of consultant you want to be, essentially. So, you know, when I started out my career, I started out in CE.
Yeah.
You know, so I have an understanding of how CE should work. I mean, now I'm integrating with CE, so having that understanding is very powerful, because instead of just going, I'm integrating with something I've never used, I understand what it's expecting and how it expects it and the data format behind that. So it's very easy to integrate with.
Yeah.
So for me, having a broad knowledge is very important. However, I do specialise. I do mainly manufacturing and warehousing, and now I'm doing a lot of Power Automate integrations and, you know, using that to integrate. That currently is where I'm specialising.
Okay.
But I still think you need a broad knowledge.
Okay, so I guess what I'm getting at, there was a time, I think, probably before I started in IT, you had back-end developers, front-end developers, architect, BAs, and everyone was in their own silos. And then we came into a time where actually a consultant would do all of those things. And do you think maybe we're getting towards a time now, though, where, I'm not sure if I agree with this or not, but it seems to be a kind of hot topic at the moment, where we're getting away from consultant being a kind of jack of all trades and they're going to be more specialised?
I think actually 100% depends on where you're employed.
Yeah.
Because if you've got, you know, here we've got the resource, you know, the luxury of, like, if I need a CE resource, I can just hop on Teams and phone someone who's available. So, you know, so I don't have to specialise in CE because we have resource to help me. Same with Power Automate. If I, you know, again with BC, I know the finance stuff in BC to a like acceptable, you know, degree. But if I had some, you know, really tough tax queries, or there was an issue with a reconciliation that I couldn't identify, you know, we've got finance specialists, you know, ex-accountants, for example, on the team. So I just phone them and ask when they're free to help with that query. So in the BCE side especially, we do have specialists, you know, like, you know, Mark, for example, Ryan, both ex-accountants, technically both as their previous roles before they started being a BC consultant. I mean, quite a while ago now, but, you know, they are our finance specialist. Graham is, you know, our warehousing manufacturing specialist. Again, that was his role before he became a consultant. So a bit like you with the BA, like they've done those roles before. So that's what they specialize in. Not to say they can't do the other part of the system, but it's like, I think you get a better end product if you have specialists doing the bit they specialize in.
Okay.
That makes sense. Like, I wouldn't want, as a customer, I wouldn't want an accountant, for example, installing my manufacturing system because they've not done manufacturing before. So it's like, how are they going to understand the manufacturing team and their actual requirements to a like deep understanding if they've not done it before?
So do you think that maybe there might be a specialism towards certain industries rather than technologies?
Yes. Yeah, in BC anyway, just because obviously we have like different modules.
Okay, so you're specialising in BC and you're actually specialising in industry, but you think you need to have touch points on everything that goes around that.
Yeah, to a degree, right? Like, you can still, like, I can still understand what's going on. I've not done accounting, not done any accounting degrees. Like, from having learned off of Mark and learning the system, I know what should happen, but there'll be scenarios that happen where I'm not aware of what should. I'm not an accountant. If an accountant from X company asks me a few queries on, is this set up in the right way? You tell me. I'm not an accountant, so I'm not going to sit here and give you advice when I'm not a specialist, essentially. Right.
What kind of, I know you integrate with CE, what kind of other integrations do you do with BC? Are there common integrations?
C is probably the most common.
Yeah.
But we've done quite a few. So like, we've got data lakes for Azure, a lot of Azure integration going on. Teams all the time. I mean, Teams and Outlook aren't really an integration, is it? It's just, technically it is, but very simple. Okay. So Azure, Teams.
So is Azure for data kind of?
Yeah,
for other
mirroring legacy systems often. So like data lakes.
So you'll get data from another system into BC via Azure?
Yeah, a lot of times they want BC to be the central like hub of their data.
So I guess you have to know about Azure as a touch point, but you don't need to know how it works necessarily.
Yeah, well, that's it.
It's there.
We integrate with a lot of third-party apps. So BC has probably over 5,000 possible extensions you can use. Okay. Extensions being like third-party apps, essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
Which you can just install, do a bit of config and use, essentially. So, there's always an element of, you're not always, you can't specialize in these apps, but again, you should understand what they do. But I think it's important. BC has got its strengths if you specialize in certain things.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
Well,
do you find that, and again, just sorry to relate it back to BC, like you said, you guys have front end and back end developers back in the day.
Yeah.
In C, I found there's a lot of mix and murky water between who's a dev and who's a consultant, whereas in BC, we have one consultant who also does development. Otherwise, you're just a consultant or a dev.
Yeah, so within the business, obviously you've got our specialist developers, but they work with BC as well for the really heavy integrations and stuff like that. I guess some people within the CE team are better at the back end and some are better at the front end, but actually we all do a mixture, I'd say, and we all go out, and certainly with the consultancy sphere, we go out and talk to customers, and we love talking to customers. And obviously this topic we brought up as something to talk about the podcast. I've tried to make it as organic as possible, but I have thought about this already. And when I first saw it, I did think, what a load of rubbish, I'm not going to lie. And then I thought more about it, and I thought, well, I might see myself as someone who's kind of a jack of all trades, because I've come from a position where I've known nothing apart from what I'm looking to implement as a business process, and I've learned technology along the way. But then I thought about it deeply, and I've realised that I'm a specialist in Dynamics 365 and quite a lot of Power Platform as well, because it goes hand in hand. It's all connected with the Dataverse, or you've got that connected to Dataverse, and you can go off with Power Automate and do whatever you want. And I've used Azure to write function apps, and I've written quite a lot of integrations as well. But actually, my specialism is the Dataverse, Dynamics 365 modules, Power Platform side. And now I suppose there's the phrase T-shaped consultant, and I thought of someone, like that, flying away like a jet or something. You'd have to cut my head off to make it proper deep, and maybe I should stand up and not camera. Anyway, that sounded funny in my head. Where was I? So Azure, and I did think what a load of rubbish to begin with. And then there's Fabric as well, which is more of a recent thing that I've been looking at. and well, Azure Logic Apps in Azure Service Bus, all that kind of stuff. Azure Data Factory as well. But I suppose I've thought about it more since I looked at the topic and thought, well, actually, maybe I am specialised in this one area, and it's because I understand all the building blocks of Dataverse and Power Platform and Dynamics. That has informed how I understand the other technologies. So although I think, oh, actually, I can pick that technology up and I can run with it, and a lot of the time I am learning stuff as I go along, because it's the nature of our job. Essentially, there's always new stuff coming out, AI being the latest thing that we're all trying to learn. Actually, I am specialised in that one area, but it's informed the way my mind works about the other areas. So
I think it's impossible not to specialise.
Yeah.
In a weird way, because when you're on a project, if that's your role for 6 months, in some regard, you're gonna become a specialist because that's what you're doing for 6 months of your life. And the rest of the system, if you're not using it, isn't going to be your specialist. You're still going to have that understanding, but you're not going to have as deep of an understanding as you are on what you've done. Like, it's recency bias. Like if I went and did a finance project for a year, chances are I'd be more of a specialist in finance than I am now.
Yeah. So I'd forgotten you mentioned the sectors. I've worked on a whole range of sectors in my career. So financial services, housing, not-for-profit and charities, we do a lot here, but we do other sectors as well. So we've got people who sell stuff, suppliers, and I think what else we've got, massive kind of government organisations. I've worked for a government organisation in my last job as well, so I've done a range of sectors. I'm trying to think. I don't necessarily find it that hard flipping between sectors. I guess with financial services, because of the regulations and things like that, that's quite detailed, but generally what I've found is that people want the same kind of thing. Is they will go in and they want to press the buttons and the screen to show them the right thing, and with financial services, for example, you could say, well, I know that's a regulatory thing, but I can't tell you how that works because legally you can't do it anyway. So actually, as a consultant, how much you need to understand, and maybe I'm underestimating how much I understand about it because I worked in financial services for like 12 years or something like that, and I've got an economics degree, as I mentioned earlier, so I might have an unfair advantage there. But my point being, I think it's more technology specific on the CE side than industry specific, which is interesting what you say, but you might be right though about BC. It might be more industry side for you.
Industry, kind of, obviously.
Or sector, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it is more still technology, right? Like, it's just, do you understand how that module works? Because it's so complex in like planning. The planning of manufacturing and warehousing side of BC is so massive. And there's so much complexity to all the different settings and config you can have. I don't think it's possible in BC. I don't think it's possible in CE to know everything.
Right, okay, so we were talking about all the modules in CE. No, there's no way I know.
That's why I think the jack of all trades doesn't work, right? Because you might have an understanding of a lot of things, but you can't know everything. I mean, we always say that you can't know everything. So I think it's better to have specialists who know a lot about something. And you still got to know more than just that one trade, for example, but you have to, I think it's such a benefit to have a specialization.
Okay.
Like if you're, like you said, right, you're a specialist in Dataverse and how that connects with Azure, because that's what you've done a lot of.
Yeah.
I think that's a strength, rather than you going, oh, I know some of everything. I'm a jack of all trades, like, well, that's good.
Yeah.
But, I'd rather you be a specialist in something and I can go, great, you're going to do an amazing job on this project.
Yeah, that's true.
Rather than going, all right, he can do it, but might not be great.
And I suppose actually from a career perspective, if you can give really strong examples about how you've delivered something
That's it.
major that's actually a big project, as opposed to saying, oh, I was involved in this and I was involved
in that. Yeah, I can do that, or I can do this. It's like, no, I'd rather you give me a detailed explanation of how this works.
And I gave this business benefit, and I saved this much money for people, and I gave these efficiencies for everybody.
And as a client, like, I'd much rather on a call there be 10 different people because I've got a massive project, and they're each individually specialist, and they're each individually doing a bit, and it's all going to be connected because they've all designed a solution, because they understand how that bit works, but they still have an understanding of the rest of it, just not as deep as someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather that than then be like, oh, this one consultant can do it all.
Okay.
Because I just feel like, no, you can't.
So, okay, so we're talking, so we've talked about sectors, technologies, and I kind of touched on at the beginning, you know, solution architects, front and back end, BAs, that kind of thing. What about the side of it where you go in, and we've talked before about soft skills, you go in and you actually talk to the customer and you understand their problems, which is traditionally kind of a business analyst thing, which we don't have anyone with the title of business analyst here. There's probably some people more comfortable doing that than others who prefer to do that than writing code, for example. But do you think that's something that people, do you think as a consultant you'd want to go and specialise in that and leave the code to one side? Because there are, I mean, I was a functional consultant in the past as well, and there's a lot of config there. There was a lot of Power Platform, low code stuff, but there was a huge amount of BA work in going in, writing requirements, writing specs, understanding people, guiding them through training, which we do anyway. Do you think it would be better if, because from my perspective, part of what I like about my job actually is that I do whatever it takes to get the end result. We do that here. There's so much crossover that it only gets to a certain point where maybe there's a really complicated integration where I actually would say, I can't do that. And maybe not that I don't want to, that I don't have the skills to do that in the time taken. What am I trying to get at here? Would you, so let's say someone said to you, you've got to specialise and you've got to be really pigeonholed and be either maybe a business analyst or functional consultant or a technical consultant or an architect. Would you like that? If you did, what would you do?
I'd just be functional. By technical, I'm assuming like dev.
Yeah, but a technical consultant is someone who might just inform about the dev. They might be more towards an technical architect kind of side.
Yeah, but I'd rather be like, I think the architect side was really cool, and you have to have an understanding of how it all works. But you're still then just going to consult a specialist. Like if you so say you're a solution architect, you still have to design a solution that works. But you're not then just going to design it and not consult the specialist on the project. Like if there's a finance specialist and you're like, well, I'm 1,000% of how this could connect to this, you're just going to go and ask.
Okay.
And I don't think I think my strength of being an example is I'm very comfortable just to go and ask for help.
Okay.
And I think that's a really important thing consultants should do.
Yeah, that's definitely.
And that's why I'm saying specialist better, because you need to know who can.
If you don't know something, then you should never pretend that you do.
Well, this is it. Yeah. Because you're always going to go wrong, and that's why I think it's really important to have like a specialism. Because if you're in the position that we're in, where you've got a brilliant team around you, having those specialists who you can just go and ask if you're not sure, because you're always learning. Like it's not like just because you're a specialist in finance, you can't have a great understanding of how manufacturing works. You just might not know every intricate detail, which would make you a specialist.
Okay.
And if you don't, and someone asks you a question, you just go, so I'm not 100% sure on how that works.
Check for you.
I'll go, let me go and check, and I'll get back to you. And that's being right because you've gone and asked is 100% better than just going, I think this is how it's done. So I think that's important, but that's why I think being a specialist is better, personally.
So how long have you been doing this now?
2 years.
Okay.
2 or 3 years.
So if there's any advice you could give young Charlie just starting out, what would it be? Would you say even younger Charlie?
I was going to say, quite young. Any advice? Well, that I haven't done already?
That I haven't
followed.
Spoken about or you haven't followed? Is there anything you look back on and you think, I wish I'd done that differently?
No. I think I got quite lucky though.
Yeah?
Because I got to learn CE. If it was my choice, I would have just gone and done BC straight away.
Okay.
But I'm really happy I did CE first, because I've now got an understanding of both systems.
So maybe that would be advice you'd give to the younger self.
Yes, have a broad understanding.
Have a broad understanding.
So this goes against exactly what I've just said about being a specialist.
Yeah. But maybe you need to know what you don't know before you decide what you want to know.
Before you can specialise, you need to understand how it all connects.
Yeah.
And as you said, that's the important bit, right? That you have to understand, like if you want to do any type of integration or have any level of, like, to be a specialist, you still have to know how it all connects. I think it's so important if you can know more than just one technology.
Oh.
I think that's a big thing. As you said, like you've looked at BC yourself to integrate.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important part. Maybe focus on Power Automate a bit more than I did.
Yeah.
Because I'm now doing a lot of it.
Okay.
Maybe learn some dev. I'd like to have learned some dev.
Yeah.
But I think that'll come in time.
Yeah.
When I understand the systems even more. Because I'm still learning every day. It's like I just haven't got enough capacity to add development onto the list.
We're all still learning every day.
Yeah. So I think that'll be it. Learn some dev. Don't know. Maybe take a year or two off before jumping into a Dynamics career.
Yeah.
I don't
Make
know.
more of your youth.
Yeah, I don't know. It's nice though. It's
It's
nice
like
to
career advice to your younger self. Don't have a career for long.
yeah, just retire.
Yeah, retire. You're obsessed with retirement.
Quick before you start. No. I don't know. I think I did quite well. I had a lot of good people around me, so
Yeah.
I was directed quite well.
Okay.
And like I said, being here has been very useful because I've had access to CE, BC, development. There's a lot of great people here to learn off. So yeah, lucky. James behind the camera is pointing at himself, and I'll tell you right now he's lying.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's a great place to work, so
Yeah.
I don't think I'd change much.
Okay. That's good.
If anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's getting a bit deep, but
Yeah. See, personally, I think I kind of wish that I'd been stronger in my convictions when I was younger, and maybe my advice would be, you know, believe more than you say and be more firm with other people, and don't let them walk all over you, and actually what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of that's one of the things I find hardest, is just having the strength in my convictions sometimes.
much to believe.
Yeah,
What
the
you
self-belief.
think, yeah.
Some days it's difficult, you know, you get imposter syndrome and that kind of stuff. So that's probably the main thing I'd take away for my certainly my tech career anyway. But yeah, so
You doubt what you got to say.
you doubt what you got to say. My main advice would have been learn how to code and don't be a If I'd done that earlier, my life would have been a lot easier, to be honest with you, because it is a good career to get into.
I think that's a really good end.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like you say, sometimes, and we all get it, like if you're sat there thinking, I want to recommend something, but you're not 100% sure, and you get that imposter's, syndrome side of things that,
Have to strengthen your convictions,
Yeah.
learn something really well.
and if you're wrong, you can always apologise for being wrong and just go and fix it, right? You can always write
Exactly.
something, so it's
Never,
never,
always own your problems. Never say you know something when you don't, and look for the help of others around you.
accountability is key.
Accountability is key.
Anyway,
Teamwork.
exactly. And just ask. I think that's a massive thing.
Yeah.
Don't ever be afraid to just, like, even if you don't know me and you want to message me something on LinkedIn, I'm assuming the same with Ben here. Like, if you don't know something, and he said he knows all about Azure Logic Apps and integrations, so.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not what I said, Charlie, but that's the other thing. Remember to listen.
No, but just always ask. Don't ever be afraid to ask. It's never a weakness to just reach out, and no one expects you to know everything.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
yeah, thank you
Well,
very much for listening.
Thanks for listening. It's been the D365 Shot First podcast.
Ben's really had to think
Yeah,
about that.
I've had to think about that a lot. I'm not a specialist in remembering what we're talking about.
Neither am I.
So thanks for listening. Bye.